You've checked your phone 4 times in the last 20 minutes. They haven't responded. You already know what you're going to do. You're going to send the follow-up text, the one that sounds casual but isn't, and then you're going to hate yourself for sending it. Or maybe you're the other one. Maybe they texted something real, something that needed a real answer, and you've been staring at it for 6 hours because every time you try to reply, your chest gets tight and you just close the app. Psychologists call it attachment theory, and it started with a British researcher named John Bowlby in the 1950s, who was studying how babies react when their caregivers leave the room. Weirdly enough, that same pattern, the one you developed as a toddler before you could even spell your own name, is still running the show when you're 32 trying to figure out why they haven't opened your message. There are 4 styles. Most people are a blend, but one tends to dominate. And the fun part is, once I describe them, you're going to know exactly which one you are. You might also know exactly which one your ex was, which explains a lot. So let's start with the easy one. About half the population has this. Secure people are the ones who text back in a normal amount of time, say what they mean, and don't spiral when their partner needs space. They grew up with caregivers who were reliably there. Not perfect, just consistent. So, as adults, they operate from the baseline assumption that love is not a test, and people are not going to abandon them mid-sentence. If you've ever dated a secure person and found them a little boring, that's because you're used to chaos. Then we get into the interesting ones. This is the person who sees read 11:47 a.m. and starts building a case against their partner in their head. They crave closeness. They want reassurance constantly, and they tend to interpret neutral behavior as rejection. A flat, okay text can ruin their entire afternoon. They're not being dramatic. Their nervous system genuinely registers distance as danger, usually because they grew up with a caregiver whose attention was inconsistent. Sometimes the parent was warm and available. Sometimes they weren't. So they learn to scan and to work hard for connection. As adults, they're the ones who fall fast, love intensely, and can accidentally suffocate a relationship by needing it to prove itself every 3 days. Now flip that completely. Avoidants don't panic when their partner pulls away. They actually feel relief. They value independence almost to a fault. They find deep emotional conversations exhausting. And the second a relationship starts to feel serious, something in them starts looking for the exit. Not because they don't care, because closeness makes them feel trapped. Avoidants usually had caregivers who were distant or dismissive of emotional needs, so they learned early that the safest strategy is to not need anyone, which works great until they're 30 and wondering why every relationship ends the same way. And then there's the last one. These are people who want intimacy and are terrified of it at the same time. They pull you in, then push you out, then miss you, then pick a fight, then apologize, then disappear. It's not manipulation. It's like having one foot on the gas and the other on the brake at the same time. They usually come from backgrounds where the person who was supposed to be a source of safety was also a source of fear or unpredictability. So their brain wired closeness and threat together. Loving them is confusing because being them is confusing. Now, you'd think we'd all be looking for those boring, secure people, but our brains have a funny way of seeking out exactly what stresses us out. Anxious people tend to date avoidant people over and over because the dynamic feels familiar. One person chases, one person retreats, and the chase itself gets mistaken for chemistry. A secure person would just have a normal, calm relationship, which to an anxious person feels like watching paint dry. So they keep picking the avoidant, who then confirms their deepest fear that love always leaves, which sends them deeper into anxiety, which sends the avoidant further away. It's a closed loop, and it's exhausting. The good news, and this is actually backed by research, is that attachment styles are not permanent. They're patterns, not personalities. People move toward secure attachment through therapy, through relationships with securely attached partners, and through the extremely unglamorous work of noticing their own patterns in real time instead of acting on them. It takes years, but it happens.